We are now going to turn to our first opening panel, Lessons from Texas for the Rest of the Country. It will be moderated by Reverend Elisa Aldaupe. Elisa is a faith organizer and programs manager at Americans United for Separation of Church and State. She's also the pastor for faith formation at Commonwealth Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia. While she's from Texas, Elisa spent her teenage years in Pune, Maharashtra, India, where her parents served as missionaries. Elisa came back to the United States for college. After obtaining a BA in history from Samford University, she went on to earn her MDiv from Mercer University's McAfee School of Theology. She serves on the board of directors for the BJC. Elisa, welcome.
All right. Well, hello. If you'll allow it, Tejana, a little opportunity to speak a little Tex-Mex to y'all tonight on the eve of Mexican Independence Day and on the first day of Latina Heritage Month. ¿Qué pasa, y'all?
¿Qué pasa?
As they mentioned earlier, my name is Reverend Elisa Aldaupe. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I am the faith organizer and programs manager at Americans United for Separation of Church and State. And I am honored to be here with some amazing and fierce advocates to learn about how we can be advocates for public schools in our states and context. It is also an honor because this is my home state. I am a child of the west side of San Antonio, and that's right, 210. All right, and but unlike my colleagues here, I grew up going to private Christian schools, where I was taught creationism and the rapture, and it was considered history and science. So my want and need to advocate for public schools comes in from a different angle. But nonetheless, I am honored that y'all are here tonight to learn from these fierce Texas advocates and to take what you learned back to your cities and to your states and to learn what anybody here who had to take 7th grade Texas history knows, that Texas is a state of fighters, and that there are good folks in this state fighting for our public schools.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we ask who's not from Texas?
Oh yeah, raise your hand if you're not from Texas.
All right.
That's okay. We love y'all anyway.
You're not from Texas.
Bienvenidos, yes, that's more
Bienvenidos.
welcoming. All right, so we know that Christian nationalism is not just a rhetoric. It is shaping law and policy. In Texas, we've seen bills to post the 10 Commandments in every classroom, replace counselors with chaplains, and censor books that tell the full story of our histories. Texas is a testing ground. The strategies developed here often spread nationwide. So that's why it is critical to understand not only what's happening in Texas, but how Texans are organizing to resist. Today's panel will highlight lessons from the front lines. You'll hear about youth, faith leaders, and community organizers who are countering extremism, reclaiming the language of religious freedom, and building coalitions to defend democracy and dignity for all. So, with that in mind, Bea, Felicia, Rabbi Nathan, let's get into it. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves as well, I'll open with this question. How are you combating Christian nationalism in your work? You want to start?
Sure, I'll start.
All right, great.
I'm Bea Moorhead. I'm the director of Texas Impact. Well, that was very generous. What I would say is that the way we're combating Christian nationalism is to get Amanda Tyler in front of all the people we can. She is the one who is helping us all message this topic. Two other things I'll just say. One of them is by being people of faith in the public square who are not Christian nationalists. So modeling that that's not the only narrative. And then the other is bringing people together to combat isolation. I think that there are a lot of people in Texas, and I bet in other states, who feel like I'm the only person who doesn't whatever the thing is. And our job, I think a lot, is to make sure they know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I'm Mara Nathan. I'm the senior rabbi at Temple Beth El. That's in San Antonio. And I don't run an organization, but I am the leader of a congregation along with other amazing clergy and staff. And, you know, speaking up to the congregation, but also speaking up in the community gives a face and a voice, like Bea said, to people who don't agree with what they're hearing on the news or feels like a fait accompli. So whether it's showing up in Austin or showing up at school boards or writing op-eds or giving sermons, posting online, it's really important for people to understand what's going on. As much as I get thanks and connection from all different parts of the state, I also talk to people every day who say, well, I don't really watch the news. I don't really know what's going on. I try not to. And I really try to impress on those people how important it is to pay just a little bit attention before you turn around and all the things you just take for granted and assume are your rights are slowly being dismantled and disintegrated. So being as public as we can, giving space for other people to make sure their opinions are seen and heard as well, to bolster them, that feels like really important work that we're doing.
That's great. Thank you. Felicia?
Yeah, my name's Felicia Martin, and I'm the president of the Texas Freedom Network. We're going into our 30th year, yes. Fighting for freedom, justice in the public square in many different areas, but I think it's such a big question of how you're fighting Christian nationalism. We were actually born at the State Board of Education in 1995 when Cecile Richards, the late great Cecile Richards, was sitting in a board meeting and realizing that the far right was threatening to infiltrate our curriculum. At that time it was creationism versus evolution, and we've stayed there. We continue to fight at the State Board of Education for textbooks, for curriculum. This year it's social studies, right? The battle continues when we talk about curriculum and textbooks. Outside of that, we're also at the forefront of fighting the Chaplain Bill, 10 Commandments. I think we are a group of organizers. We are social justice fighters. And so if there's some type of interconnection between Christian nationalism and education, TFN is going to be there. And I think the third big area that we have found influential is in really helping to work in religious congregations. So we've spent the last decade really building out these reproductive freedom congregations. Shan Schaefer, where are you? Shan has done tremendous work in really educating these congregations about there doesn't have to be a this or that we can have freedom of reproductive health and be Christians. And so I think wherever there's a battle around education, reproductive health, Texas Freedom Network shows up to do that work.
Excellent. Thank you. So we've heard about how Christian nationalism is affecting the state and what's at stake. Where do you find the hope in this work? What can others learn from Texas? We can go opposite directions if you
You
want.
want to go the opposite direction?
Yeah, I think the biggest hope that I see is in Gen X, our young people. We have a Texas Rising portion of our work, and they are showing up for the battles, and I think when we think about young people organizing for justice, we often hear about the other side. There is a large youth movement. I won't name the name of the organization, but I think that we have young people that are also mobilizing in Texas against these things, and so they give me hope. I think that faith communities connecting and rising up gives me hope. We fought for the school vouchers. We heard Randy talk a lot about 3 decades. School vouchers did not pass because we had rural Republican, conservative, representation saying this does not fit my constituency. And so when you don't have that voice and teachers can't show up for that fight, it's our faith leaders who show up. because they understand the interconnectedness of that fight. And so I think when we are united, we are able to really fight some of these battles better.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. Right? The news, the local and the state government, even though San Antonio is a pretty blue city, I happen to live in a non-blue zip code, and so it's pretty easy to feel like the majority are against what you stand for, to look for these slivers of groups of people who are passionate about just protecting everybody to have the freedoms. It's not that any one position is wrong, it's that everyone should be given the space to believe in how they want to and raise their children and build their communities in ways that are meaningful and fulfilling to them. But I certainly feel like there are people who really are hungry for ways to help, ways to speak up. I'm part of the, so one of the reasons I think that I'm here is that I'm the lead plaintiff in the case against the state for the Ten Commandments case, right, the SB 10.
Absolutely. And some of the other things.
But I'm not alone. There are 16 or 17. There's more than one. There's several people who are here. Please stand up if you're part of the suit. Rabbi Fixler is here as well. So there's other rabbis. There are Christian leaders. I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, but just to say that when each of us makes this stand and we stand up and we put a face and a voice to this sense of reason that everyone should have their own opportunity to raise their own children in the way they want to and choose to raise them in their own houses of worship or not, and in their own homes, and they hear other people taking the chance to say that out loud, that inspires them. So I've been hopeful to hear from so many people, not just from San Antonio, but all over Texas, really all over the country, to say thank you for stepping up and standing up. So knowing we're not alone, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Thank you.
I guess when you asked that question, she sent us a list of questions, and one of them was, what gives you hope? And I was coming up here with our policy fellows, and I said, not really anything. I think I'm going to skip that question. But instead, I want to say this. I really appreciated what Sky Perryman had to say, and the centering local community. And I think what I would charge everyone to think about is, when we talk about the faith community, the most important thing that it's bringing to the table in the public square is the community piece of that. Mm-hmm. Faith is what brings people in. It's what your faith is what motivates you. But once you get there, the community is what you are an expert in. And we know this going back to the Franklin Roosevelt letter to clergy in 1936, right? That what no one else but local faith communities can do is speak for their particular constituency. And in Texas, that's working specifically on the chaplain issue, specifically on the Bluebonnet curriculum issue that we're going to talk about. And even though, Charlie, we didn't finally make it on vouchers, we're going to hear from
the most powerful man in the world.
We took the most powerful man in the world to stop us, and everybody's going to be hearing from their communities about it. So I think I don't know if I'm going to own hope, but for sure what keeps me motivated and gives me courage is seeing what people do in their communities.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So we know that stepping forward and standing up takes some risk, right? It takes capacity for folks to be part of lawsuits, to stand up and write an op-ed, to be vocal when you feel alone sometimes, right? So what risks have y'all, I can't say we, I vote in Virginia now, but what risks has Texans been willing to take in order to combat religious extremism in the public sphere?
Yeah, I'll start on this one because we've taken risks, and it hasn't always gone well, and it's important to know that. I think the note I made myself was, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to take public funds. I think a big risk is when our communities depend on us, right, for all of the services that we provide: disaster response, healthcare, foster care, refugee resettlement. And every once in a while, we really get caught in the crossfire, like on refugee resettlement, where several years ago, all of a sudden, a bunch of faith communities found out that if you have the wrong position on one thing, you will lose your funding for everything. So it's a real risk. It's a real risk to speak out in a time like this. But it is not only a risk for the people on this sort of side, I suppose. I don't like the language of sides, and we say the faith community doesn't have to work in a binary way. You know, we can be wherever we want to, but we are all kind of on one side, at least in a secular construction. There's a risk for people on the other side also, and we found out about it when we tried to have conversations, hard conversations, with equal numbers of Republican and Democrat women. And the people who wouldn't participate were the Republicans, and they said it was because they were afraid for people to know that they didn't toe the party line. Mm-hmm. So there's risk for everybody, and part of our job is to help give everybody courage, not just the ones who agree with us.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I don't know that there's a day that anyone on my team wakes up and we're not at risk. We live in Texas. The majority of my staff are part of the LGBTQI community, people of color. I myself, queer, Latina, two-mom family. I mean, I wake up and I'm at risk. I speak out, I'm at risk. So there are days where I'm just like, it doesn't matter. My existence is a risk, so why not just speak out? I think that's kind of where a lot of us go, but that doesn't mean that we don't still think about our young people this week, especially when news came out of what happened. My first thoughts were with my young people who are going to do National Voter Registration Day next week, and what risks they're going to put themselves in to do the work. And I have yet to hear them say, we're not going out there. We're not going to go out there and organize. We're not going to go out there and get people to register to vote, because the only way things are going to change is if we continue to show up. And that's the risk that we take every day working for an organization. Even though Texas Freedom Network, when you see our name tag, people think that we are possibly MAGA. We do a lot of work to discount those perceptions. But that puts us at risk, right? So there's that. I think about the reproductive freedom congregations and the risk that clergy people, they risk their own reputations, their own livelihoods by speaking up for reproductive health and fairness and LGBTQI people. So they take a risk. And I think that, you know, we're constantly trying to assess the risk that we will take in order to stand up for these things. But I do believe, we're here on a panel, so what can you learn from Texas, is that we have been doing this. Mm-hmm. It's not like this just happened to us yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
We've been doing it for a while. And so we continue to show up in the ways that we can. And the reason why we feel safe is because we have rooms like this. We know that there's a safe place to be should we go to Amarillo, right? That there are congregations and there are people that are there to take us in and protect us, and that's the reason why we keep showing up, even though we know literally our lives are at risk every time we go out there.
Thank you. I think all those risks apply for all of us and everyone who made the choice to be in this room today. I do want to go back to the opening program as a Jewish person and as a Jewish leader who's been involved in all of these issues that we brought up, all the things that have been happening in Texas, certainly in the last, 12, 15 years, we've spoken up and showed up again and again. And that has always felt good, and it's always felt like we've been in a coalition of like-minded people. Certainly since October 7th, that has become a much more fraught conversation. Rabbi Kleinbaum referenced it a little bit. You know, and in some ways it's worse in a so-called liberal place like New York than it is in a place where your governor is constantly talking about battling anti-Semitism, but using it really as this, you know, pernicious smokescreen for really just, you know, clamping down on freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But I think it would be a lie to say that it feels easy as a Jewish person and as a person who believes so deeply in the right of Israel to exist as a state that it's suddenly, you know, that it's easy to show up in spaces where you think you have so much in common with people, and then you're not really sure whether people are going to be able to be in respectful dialogue with you. So I want to remind us, even though this is, I would imagine, a very progressive space overall, that there are silos within progressivism as well. And that just like I'm really touched by your point that there are people who would define on the right as being, who are nervous and scared to talk about issues that they feel strongly about because they worry about the backlash in their own community. You know, your Jewish community, wherever you are, is experiencing backlash within its own community. And certainly those of us who feel like we are on the left feel a tremendous amount of backlash within the circles that we have been part of, you know, if not our whole lives, certainly our adult lives. So all of it feels like a risk. It's easier to stay in your own little circle and stay with your people. There are a few of us, I mean, there are a decent amount of Jewish people here. Someone said we shouldn't all sit at one table. We should try to, you know, we should try to spread out. And some of us did, and some of us didn't, right? Because frankly, it can feel tenuous to be in a space like this one where we're going to be celebrated for standing up for, you know, for Texans, for civil liberties, and all of that, but that there are plenty of people, I would imagine, in this room who aren't so comfortable with all of my positions and feelings, and, you know, I might not be comfortable with all of your positions and feelings, and part of working in coalition with people on issues that we are passionate about is being willing to see each other as complicated and complex human beings, and that working towards a greater good for everybody is hopefully what ultimately all of us are dedicating so much of ourselves to.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
We done?
We finished in 3 minutes to spare. Got that done? Yeah, if we have about 3 minutes, so if there's a question you're itching to ask our panel, yes, we have one question here. Do we have a mic so folks can hear the question? Oh, here we go. Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you very much. My name is Mickey Dollins. I'm from Oklahoma. This question is for Ms. B. You said one of your priorities is combating isolation. How are you doing that aside from bringing people together in person? Are you doing Zooms, reaching out in that way? What are some examples?
I'm fortunate that I've got one of my masterminds in the room here with me, Scott Atnett, my Director of Public Witness, and he would be very happy to talk with you at depth if you want, but basically we have teams that are not necessarily geographically based, they're more based on issues, and we convene them once a week on Zoom. We have teams that have been meeting for 3 years. We have a public education team. How many people are on the pub ed team? I mean, the teams, because they meet weekly on Zoom, they develop relationships between themselves, and I think there's like 250 of the pub ed people, but most of them aren't on Zoom every week, but they all end up getting to feel like they are part of the team. They get an email from the team leader every week, and during our legislative session, like the public education one self-organized a lobby day that then they did go to the Capitol for. So that's one thing, is organizing people around teams. The other really just is all part of the same idea is trying to get people locally, even if we're not there, to get them to convene themselves locally. So Kathy Sweeney over here from Arapahoe United Methodist Church has been doing a great job up here in partnership with all these other people that were cheering for themselves a second ago, in making opportunities for like-minded people to get together locally and then find out about the ways that they can interact with people who are not in their same local area. I think it's making a tremendous difference. I really do. I mean, I can't say enough about how much the basic personal connection. We had one of our people on one of these teams had foot surgery a few weeks ago, and the other team members from around the state, like, all were sending fruit baskets. It was amazing.
That's great. I know that question was not geared toward me, but I just
No,
wanted
good.
to elevate something that we did this past weekend that actually was an idea from Dolores Huerta at our rally in Austin. And I'm going to listen to whatever this woman says, but she said what we need to do and go back to doing is sitting around a table and having dinners for democracy, where we sit with our neighbors and we talk about democracy. And it sparked this idea, and I did it with a group of friends in Houston recently, activists, community people, artists, and we just talked about what's at stake. And if those people go and talk to their friends who go and talk to their friends, we're starting to add to this conversation of civil dialogue. And I think that those are ways that we can combat isolationism too, and stop one lane of information coming in from whatever channel they watch, which is about human interaction and connection.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank y'all so much again. Thank you to our panelists and folks who listened.